Michelle Obama, the next president of the United States? Yikes. That's the topic of today's Bold and Blunt, and I'm your host, Cheryl Chumley, giving you a Christian conservative look at today's news, politics, culture, and events. So Joe Biden said that he's running for a second term, right? In April, he officially announced a second run for the White House, saying that he wanted to, quote, finish this job, end quote, which, you read between the lines, what he is implying there is he wants to finish the job of crumbling America, crippling the Constitution, and ushering in this great reset type globalism from which America will never recover. So he wants to, quote, finish this job, end quote. And with so many shadow players pushing his agenda through the White House in this term, another 4 years of Joe Biden may in fact finish this job that he has plans for. But there are plenty of people out there who think that he does not have the physical stamina. Notice they don't say mental capacity because that ship already sailed, right? But they believe that he doesn't have the physical capacity to even pretend like he can run a country for another 4 years. So talk is turning elsewhere for viable Democrat Party candidates. And one name that keeps popping up, Michelle Obama. What do you think? You think she's going to run? I think there are some strong signs out there that say yes. And before I get into more of that, I want to quickly mention, if you like Bold and Blunt, you may get Bold and Blunt at edify.app. That is the online platform for your faith-based podcasts. And don't just check out mine, check out all the other faith-based podcasts that are offered there, because there are some tremendous ones that you are missing right now. But if you were to only go to edify.app and check them out, well, then you wouldn't be missing them any longer. You can also get Bold and Blunt, of course, at WashingtonTimes.com, where you can subscribe to my 3 times a week newsletter. Here's how you do it. Go to WashingtonTimes.com, right? Type that in. Scroll to the bottom of that page there and find the newsletter section. Click on newsletter section. And I think in the second or third line, right, you will see Bold and Blunt with Cheryl Chumley. That's my newsletter. Yeah. That's my newsletter. Click on it, sign up for my newsletter. And with my newsletter, you get this. And it's free. It's free, right? Free. Not taxpayer funded, actually free. Get my newsletter. You will get Monday, Wednesday, and Friday delivered to your email box. My commentaries that I write at the Washington Times, giving you the bullet points you need to fight the Democrat Party, which is to say the communists and socialists and Marxists. And you will also get my twice weekly Tuesday and Thursdays Bold and Blunt podcasts featuring great guests. You can't get better guests than I get on Bold and Blunt. But that's not all. I know, there's more. You may get Bold and Blunt wherever podcasts are offered. You don't have to go through all that. You can just do a search engine search on Bold and Blunt Cheryl Chumley. Subscribe to my podcast. I think it's at Apple. Yeah, it's the Apple link for my podcast that you can see all the nice things people say about it. So if you're not sure, I don't know if I want to subscribe, well, read through the comments of what listeners say about Bold and Blunt, and maybe that'll change your mind. Really appreciate my subscribers, and if you're considering subscribing, thank you. I really appreciate that as well. So Joe Biden running in 2024, we think, right? We think he is. He said he was going to. He came out in April. He wants to finish this job. From the Associated Press, April 25th, this little bit. Biden, who would be 86 at the end of a second term, which honestly, 86 for some people isn't that old. 86 for some people is like 66. Right? There are some 86-year-old people out there who act like they're 46, but have the physical characteristics of a 56-year-old and the mental stamina of maybe even a 30-year-old, right? There are some 86-year-olds out there who are really in shape, both physically and mentally. Joe Biden ain't it. All right, so Biden, back to this AP piece, who would be 86 at the end of a second term, which in Joe Biden years is more like 256, is betting his first term legislative achievements Well, there's no laugh track with that. It's just straightforward written. First term, legislative achievements. My mind's churning. Legislative achievements. Coming up blank. Here. As blank as a Joe Biden mind. Wow. And more than 50 years experience in Washington. Yes, this is a guy who is an inside man, right? He is pure politics. None of that, I'm not in politics type of politicking for him. No, none of that, I'm an outsider. Joe Biden is deep in the mud of politics. Let me go back and start at the beginning of this sentence because there have been so many rabbit holes we've just hopped down into. I want to make sure you're getting the gist. Biden, who would be 86 at the end of a second term, is betting his first term legislative achievements. I'm sorry, I just got to stifle a laugh on that. And more than 50 years of experience in Washington will count for more than concerns over his age. He faces a smooth path to winning his party's nomination with no serious Democratic challengers, but he's still set for a hard-fought struggle to retain the presidency in a bitterly divided nation. I don't know about that smooth path thing, right? It's not just Republicans who do not favor Joe Biden. It's not just independents who have a problem with Joe Biden. I mean, his own Democrat Party has a problem with him. Just a couple days ago, the Wall Street Journal ran this story on the most recent poll results, and it goes like this. The negative views of Biden's age and performance in office help explain why only 39% of voters hold a favorable view of the president. In a separate question, some 42% said they approve of how he is handling his job, well below the 57% who disapprove. And it's not just Republicans. Democrats in there look at Joe Biden and I say, really? Another 4 years? I don't know about that, Like Hillary Clinton looks like a young spring chicken next to Joe Biden because her mind is intact for the most part. She's a lunatic when it comes to politics, an agenda for America. She's out there. She's a lunatic fringe on the far left ideology. But she's a lunatic who can form cohesive sentences and present them to the public, right? And she can walk and talk at the same time, which already, that's like oodles above Joe Biden's talents. Voters are looking for change, said Democratic pollster Michael Bocian, Bocian, taking a guess at his last name pronunciation there, who conducted this survey with Republican pollster Tony Fabrizio. Although the candidates are only 3 years apart, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, 73% of voters said they feel Biden is too old to seek a second term, compared with 47% of voters who said the same of the 77-year-old Trump. And here is the eye-opener. 2/3 of Democrats said Biden was too old to run again. 2/3. Come on, who's going to vote for Biden at this point? I mean, his family, right? His family and foreign officials would certainly feed money into the system to try and drum out the vote for Joe Biden, right? Ukraine, China, Russia. They would all love a second term of Joe Biden. So I'm sure that they would find ways to flood the system with money to fuel the leftist vote for Joe Biden come 2024. But by and large, Democrats, even Democrats, are saying, Biden, man, go to the beach, stay at the beach, take some ice cream money, and just stay away from the White House. Let's run another candidate. So who, right? Gavin Newsom out in California. His name's being floated. There's some other Democrats out there. But the real interesting one is Michelle Obama, right? Michelle Obama, the one who always claims from beginning to end, I hate politics. I hate politics so much. I will take your tax dollar funded vacation trips with my two daughters here and there and there and here, but I will hate it the whole time. I will hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it. You know what else she hates? America. Remember this?
And let me tell you something. For the first time in my adult life, I am proud of my country.
Wow, isn't that amazing? 2008. She hated America, totally disapproved of America, detested America all the way up until 2008 when her husband won the White House with the backing of white voters in America, right? Because there aren't enough black votes in America to have voted in Barack Obama. He needed the white vote too. He needed plenty of white voters, which he got. And so that's when Michelle Obama, for the first time in her life, was not ashamed of America, did not detest America. Well, that makes her the perfect Democrat Party candidate for president, right? I mean, if John Brennan, former head of the CIA, really one of the most secretive organizations, unaccountable to the people organizations to ever exist in America, if John Brennan could, in college, vote for a Communist Party official and then go on to lead the CIA, right? And to become one of the Democrat Party's greatest heroes, right? Taking down Donald Trump, la-di-da. Then certainly Michelle Obama, who up until 2007, 2008, detested America, was ashamed of America, hated America, and now has turned the corner and actually, well, sees some good points about America, then wouldn't she be a great Democrat Party candidate, right? Because Democrats don't have to care about things in their candidates like, you know, love for America, respect for the Constitution, admiration for founding father principles, individualism over collectivism. They don't have to care about petty things like that. All they have to do is care about whether they can give a good speech, right? Hope and change. And you know what? Joe Biden has lost his ability to give a good speech. So Joe Biden must go. And I have a guest today who really, truly, actually, totally believes that Michelle Obama will be the Democrat Party candidate of choice for 2024. God help us all. But this is what he says. Gilbert is his name, and he wrote Michelle Obama 2024, her real life story and plan for power. Not plan for America, right? Not plan for you and me. Plan for power. Joel, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. It is great to have you here.
Okay, great to be with you.
Michelle Obama 2024, you predict that she will indeed make a run for the presidency. What do you base that on?
Look, I've been following the Obamas for years, and I noticed some years ago, even in 2016, Michelle started following the exact same formula that Barack had to become president. Barack had a voter registration organization in Chicago called Project Vote. Michelle started When We All Vote, backed up by the Soros Group, a $26 million organization. Barack was the keynote speaker for John Kerry in 2004, introduced him at the Democrat National Convention. Sure enough, Michelle introduced Joe Biden. She was the keynote speaker in 2020 at the DNC. And also, Barack wrote two autobiographies. He kind of based his candidacy on his personal story. He wrote Dreams from My Father and The Audacity of Hope. There was Michelle. She wrote her best-selling autobiography, Becoming, 2018. It's also a movie on Netflix. And then she wrote The Light We Carry, which just came out. It's also on Netflix as an interview. So I see her following the same formula. She's got 100 million social media followers. And the Democrat Party seems to have set it up for her. They moved the first primary out of Iowa, where you have to campaign in 99 counties, to South Carolina, where half the Democrat voter primary electorate are going to be African American. It's also a state that Michelle claims as her adopted home state because her grandparents are from there. And the the Democrat National Convention, of all places, is in Chicago, Michelle's hometown. So when you put all that together with the fact that nobody thinks that Biden is a viable candidate in 2024, no one really believes he's running, I make the case for it in my film and book of the same name, Michelle Obama 2024.
It's very compelling, the info that you just laid out. But the big question is, what about Michelle Obama's own statements? Because she has been asked to run for the presidency numerous times, probably more than we even know about, more than is even reported in the press, and she always answers no.
Well, there's a lot of history to that. People don't know how political Michelle is. She's a better politician than Barack. She's a better speaker. She's even more political. Her father was a precinct captain working for the Democrat Party machine in Chicago. Michelle grew up in politics. She was best friends with Jesse Jackson's daughter, Santita, when she was in high school. She kind of grew up in Jesse's house when he was running for president. So Michelle married a politician. She's very political. You might remember in 2008, she was giving huge speeches to massive crowds on her own all over the country. And she was the co-candidate. She was saying, Barack and I, what we're going to do in the White House, our campaign. And she gave these very nasty anti-American speeches, things like, you can't get sick in this country, you can't pay for food, you can't pay your mortgage. And she went over the top one night and said, well, for the first time in my life, I'm proud of my country because Barack won a primary. Now, she said a lot worse things than that, but the media started paying attention, and that's when the campaign told her, they said, listen, we're going to lose because of you, because people are going to hate you. So she hired a speechwriter the next night, and she came up with a new line. She said, I hate politics, and I just want to be the mom-in-chief, because she didn't want to ruin it for Barack. So she's kind of taken a step back to pretend not to be that interested in politics. But if you look at her behavior the last some years, look at her Twitter account. It's all political all the time. So Michelle wants to come back into politics by saying exactly what she said when she introduced Joe Biden in 2020 at the convention. She said, you know I hate politics, but I love this nation and I love your children. So that's where she wants to rejoin politics as an outsider, someone who just wants to help out.
As an outsider, that's interesting because that is exactly what Donald Trump was, and that was one of the keys to his success, except his was genuine. Michelle Obama's is not so genuine. Now, let's just say the premise is correct that Michelle Obama will indeed run for the White House. What do you see, and when do you see this sort of tipping point where we all agree that she is indeed going to run?
Well, I think we're looking at November of this year because when it's going to happen, because December 23rd is the deadline for most states to get on the Democrat primary ballot. There's a deadline for Nevada in October, but that's just a small state. I think they'll blow that off. I see Biden dropping out in November for some kind of health reason, and then the party will turn to Michelle, who has prepared for this moment for some time, because she's really the only one that can get all the signatures she needs and raise a couple $100 million in 2 weeks. So it'll be quite obvious, and I think that's when it's going to go down. And look, Biden is not really running. It's only because RFK Jr. made an announcement, and I think somebody was afraid of the Kennedy name, so Biden put out a video a week later, and he said he's running. But he has no campaign office. He doesn't do any campaigning, and there's just universal consensus on the left and right that he's not a viable candidate.
So his candidacy has been sort of a distraction then. Are there any other distractions that we, both in the media and in just American politics in general, should be looking out for?
Well, there's distractions all the time that, the Biden administration creates, all kind of faux crises of the climate and, the war in Ukraine, and now there's talk of another COVID pandemic, and you got to get vaccinated. So there's lots of things that they can do with their media allies to distract people from what Biden's really up to. I mean, he's going to Maui today, Hawaii, where he's probably going to do a victory lap and say what a great job he did supporting Maui, even though he didn't. So that's kind of been the pattern. They kind of gaslight for anything they want to do.
So Michelle Obama in the White House, let's say it's Michelle Obama versus Donald Trump, and Michelle Obama wins. What kind of White House agenda do you see coming from her? Would it be identical to her husband's?
Well, I think, first of all, Trump would have a chance to beat her, and the way he would beat her is watch my movie and my film, by the way, because I really show what Michelle is really about. She's not a friend of the black community. She pretends to be one of these ordinary black folks from the south side of Chicago, falsely claiming she suffered racial discrimination, was held back in life to try to get and manipulate black and minority voters to identify with her. But my film and book, I showed the opposite is true. Michelle was from an elite family. She ran away from black kids growing up. Her and her brother always went far away, did not go to the all-black schools 1 block from their house. They avoided black kids. Michelle got into fistfights with a girl that called her an Oreo. Major insult, means you're black on the outside, but you're really white on the inside. She was accused of acting white and talking white. She had no black friends. And then I show how Michelle got her revenge on the black community when she worked for the mayor of Chicago. She was assistant planning commissioner, and she made 20,000 blacks homeless. She knocked down the projects at Cabrini Green to give away the land to Democrat Party developers like Tony Rezko. And then she got a job at the University of Chicago Medical Center, where her job was to kick black people out of the emergency room. They were losing money because a lot of Southsiders were showing up without insurance. So Michelle started the Southside Health Collaborative, and she would put black people in these vans and ship them back to the Southside and dump them at these crappy clinics. It was called patient dumping. It was illegal. So Michelle made millions of dollars working for white liberals to take care of their problems with black people. They couldn't hire a white person to make blacks homeless and take away their health care. So Michelle always filled that role. So if Donald Trump said things to Michelle Obama at a debate like, Michelle, are you going to apologize for what you did to the black community? Or Michelle, how much money did you make denying access to health care? I think black voters are no fools, and they would realize that Michelle exploited the black community and was no friend of theirs. As far as if Michelle won, she really has never had any original ideas of her own. Just look at her Twitter and everything she says. When she introduced Joe Biden, for example, she said, the Black Lives Matter protests were mostly peaceful. So she just quotes talking points. She's very good at quoting Democrat Party talking points. So whatever you saw from the first Biden administration, what you see going on with the first Obama 8 years and the Biden administration, I think that's what Michelle Obama presidency would look like. It would just mimic the current Democrat Party talking points.
One of the headlines on one of the releases that I received from your press people read this way: "Behind the facade, biographer claims," and that's a reference to you, "biographer claims Obama lazy, insecure, and gay." And Obama in this reference is to Barack. Could you talk a little bit about what was meant by that?
I don't remember writing that or seeing that. Are you sure that was attributed to me?
No, it's attributed to your press people promoting your book. They open with that headline, which is what grabbed my attention.
I'd have to see. Can you say it again?
"Behind the facade, biographer claims Obama lazy, insecure, and gay."
Look, you're talking about Barack?
Yes.
Yeah, look, my film and book, Michelle Obama 2024, really focuses on Michelle's real-life history. As I outlined, her conflicts with the black community growing up in Chicago, her exploitation of them as a professional. Barack Obama I covered in my previous film in 2012 called Dreams from My Real Father. And that, I think I made the case very well that Obama's real biological father was not the Kenyan student Obama that he claimed from Africa. His real biological father was an American communist and Soviet agent named Frank Marshall Davis that Obama admits raised him in Hawaii. And I've since done a tremendous amount of research and talked to Obama's friends growing up, and they've confirmed that Davis was the real biological father and that the Kenyan student was simply a cover-up because they didn't want to, entangle with the fact that Frank Marshall Davis was married and so on. The Kenyan student Obama had a wife and 2 kids in Africa, and he wanted to extend his visa to study at Harvard for PhD. So I covered Obama pretty well. And but Barack is kind of the more disorganized, similar to the Clintons. Bill Clinton is kind of disorganized, real friendly guy. He kind of gets along with people. But it was Hillary Clinton who was kind of the force behind getting Bill Clinton elected president. I think Barack Obama's the same. He's kind of disorganized, friendly guy, but he's not very capable. But it was Michelle Obama all those years that pushed him and introduced him to people like Tony Rezko when she worked at the mayor's office, and got Barack where he became a major politician and ran for president.
Do you think America, culturally speaking, is at the moment in history where more voters than not would accept, first off, a female president, but second off, a black female president?
Well, I think certainly they showed in 2008 they were more than happy to elect a black president, and it was white voters that were like, great, to have a black president. They supported Obama. It was the black voters that did not think Barack Obama was one of them because he grew up in Hawaii with white grandparents. He was biracial. At first, they didn't consider him to be black at all. But he was elected mostly by white voters, and a lot of blacks stayed home at the time. So I don't think Americans have any problem with a black president or politicians, governors. We have mayors all over the country for many, many years, so I don't think that's an issue. The issue is, will the Obamas play it straight with the electorate, and will Michelle tell her the real story of what their agenda is all about? That was the problem. Barack, when he ran for president in 2008, he ran as a mainstream candidate. He said, marriage is between man and a woman and God. I support the Constitution. It was all very mainstream. 5 days before the election, he said, we're 5 days away from fundamentally transforming America. Now, no one knew what he was talking about. They never heard that before. Sure enough, when Obama got into office, he threw the voters under the bus and pursued this radical socialist agenda that no one voted for. So it's not the person's color or gender. It's whether they'll be honest about what they plan to do in office.
So speak to your background for a moment. How much time have you spent researching this book, prior books? What is your overall background regarding media?
Well, I've been making documentary films, for 20 years on the Middle East politics, Islamic history, the Arab-Israeli conflict, Islamism. I did make some films on music history, Bob Dylan, comedy on Paul McCartney, and made a film with the Iranian nuclear program. So I've been following politics and making films and documentaries about politics for many years. And I followed the Obamas since went out to Hawaii a couple of times to research Barack Obama's background, something that none of the media did when Barack ran for president. They just accepted whatever he said is true. That's why he wrote his autobiography, Dreams from My Father. It was kind of a political document to reset his real history so the media could just repeat whatever he said. It turns out that that book is completely fictitious, and there was a whole different story, which I think I revealed in Dreams from My Real Father. And Michelle Obama has the same issues. She falsely claims to have suffered discrimination growing up and being someone who was held back in life. It's to cover up the fact that she comes from a very elite background. One of her biggest lies she's been telling for 15 years, she's been saying about how her high school counselor racially profiled her regarding her applying to Princeton University. She even told Gayle King recently on TV, she said, the counselor said, you're black, applying to Princeton, maybe you're stretching, using it as a racial incident. Well, I found out her guidance counselor was a church-going black woman who was also an assistant principal. There's no way she racially profiled her. The worst thing she could have said is, Michelle, you have low test scores. You might want to apply. You might want to apply to some other schools to make sure you have some backups. We've all heard that. That's the worst thing she could have said. But Michelle makes it to be a racial incident because Michelle is so insecure about her relationship with the black community because she spent her childhood getting beat up by them and running away from them, and her professional career exploiting them to make money from white liberals.
So let's just finish with this last question, Joe. After researching Michelle Obama 2024, her real life story and plan for power, if she were to win the White House one day, what changes would America have to ready itself for?
I think we're still trying to swallow the changes from Barack Obama's presidency, open borders, government health care, all these things that nobody voted for, that the radical left is trying to shove down everybody's throats, that no one would have ever voted for. It's the same thing that Biden is doing. It's just more of the same radical leftist agenda that they can't achieve at the voting booth, so they have to pretend and say things that aren't true to get themselves elected. They appoint radical judges to force through things that no one would want. So that's the basic conflict that I think Michelle continues, is pushing forward a radical agenda that nobody wants and nobody voted for, that we have to somehow swallow because they tell us that this is a better way to live. The problem goes back to the fact that the Obamas and even Biden, they say one thing when they're running for office to sound very reasonable, and as soon as they get elected, they throw the voters under the bus and try to shove this radical agenda down our throats between transgenderism, open borders, all these things that nobody wants is what we have to kind of swallow because they're telling us we have to.
Yeah, it'd be nice if voters wouldn't be fooled this time around. Joel Gilbert, author of Michelle Obama 2024, Her Real Life Story and Plan for Power. I want to thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt, and I assume that people can get this book anywhere.
Yeah, the book version of Michelle Obama 2024 is on Amazon.com, and then you can watch the documentary film version on Amazon Prime Video and also on SalemNow.com.
Well, I hope you're wrong about her running, to be honest. But I do appreciate your time and clarity on this issue. Joel, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt.
All right, thanks so much.
Michelle Obama in the White House as president. What a disaster. What a disaster that would be for America. I don't know which would be worse, Michelle Obama or Joe Biden. Joe Biden obviously is a puppet, right? But Michelle Obama, geez, she could do a lot more damage because her mental abilities are still intact. And she runs with the same crowd that's driving Joe Biden's agenda. Think about it. Think about it and vote Republican, vote even better Donald Trump 2024. Thank you for listening. If you like Bold and Blunt, I want to quickly remind you that you may get Bold and Blunt at WashingtonTimes.com, where you may also subscribe to my 3 times a week newsletter. It's called Bold and Blunt with Cheryl Chumley. You can also get Bold and Blunt at Edify.app, at Real Life Network, and anywhere podcasts are offered. Tune in next time, and in the meanwhile, don't forget, stay away from Michelle Obama and stay blunt, stay bold.